Charlie, we're doing other business.
It's 1:01 p.m. Am I the only one that, maybe it's just because I'm an old man, but the slap back from the ceiling, sometimes I have a little trouble understanding because it's like what. So if I'm doing this, it's because I'm trying to make out what you're saying. Welcome, everybody, to this week's meeting. Let's do quick introductions. We're going to go this way this time. I'm Charlie from Visit Fargo-Moorhead.
Emma McIntyre, Folkways.
Ken Colstead, President, Livewire.
Taylor Snelling, owner of Mezzaluna.
Dave Pepcorn, Fargo City Commission.
Jim Gilmore, City of Fargo staff.
Susan Thompson, City of Fargo.
Michelle Turnberg, Fargo City Commission.
Tim Mahoney, Mayor of Fargo.
Kate Balstead, Southeast Education Cooperative.
Mike Rithinger, City of Fargo staff.
Mallory Ackerman, Visit Fargo-Moorhead.
Okay, let me start by thanking Mallory for running the meeting while I was at the Minnesota basketball tournament last week, watching our granddaughters. They won the consolation championship in their senior year, so that was good. Yeah, yeah. One of them's coming to play at MSUM next year, so that'll be fun. Yeah, that's good. Huh? Yes, exactly. Yeah. Our travel plans, let's go over that quickly. We have our guest actually going to, I don't know if Pam can hear me now, but our second guest had to cancel out today because of a conflict. He had a legislative meeting. We all know how important that is in Kansas, but he's going to join us on April 4th. So we'll have plenty of time to talk to Pam in a moment. Travel plans, anybody have any questions about this? We count 12 people all together going. There'll be plenty of room on the bus. Yes, Mallory?
The only thing I would add is make sure you're there at 8 a.m. We're going to stick to the schedule of leaving right at 8:30 so we can make it to St. Cloud in time for the tour and lunch beforehand. So
we want to be on the road by 8:30.
correct.
Yeah. And you can park in our parking lot, no problem.
I will have all the information you need for the actual tours. Just bring your own suitcase of overnight stuff and we'll be good to go. And I'm grabbing snacks and water and pop and, road food. You need the goodies. So
It'll be a PG-13 cooler. So yeah, and we're going to meet Rich Gallus at the River's Edge, hopefully by 12:30 is our plan. And then he'll give us a tour, and about 1:30, then Rachel Thompson, my counterpart in St. Cloud at the CVB, will join us. And then we can ask them questions for as long as we need to. And then we'll hit the road to Rochester, where we have dinner booked at Crave, which is in the hotel. We're staying at the Hotel Indigo. I think you all know that. And then actually Bill Von Bank, who will be leading our tour at the Mayo Civic Center the next day, is going to join us for dinner too. So that'll be great. We can pop in with some early questions. And then we'll tour the Mayo, and then we'll hopefully be on the road by noon or a little. We have a lunch booked somewhere, yeah. So glad for all of you who can make the trip. It's going to be good. I just wanted to clear up again. I sent you guys an email to make sure everybody understands that we Visit Fargo-Moorhead has hired HVS to do a study that we can use in conjunction with this, and that's why Tom was with us. He's agreed to serve as a consultant in some situations. We'll probably see him again. But I gave you I think I emailed you the scope of work from their study. It's going to be an analysis, a market assessment document for placement of the convention center and hotel developer RFP. This analysis will be distributed with the RFP. I discovered that that's something you kind of have to do. So we gave him the approximate size we were looking for, and then you see in this list here, I won't go over it all, the things that he's going to look at in conjunction with that. So we'll have a pro forma market analysis done by them, which will actually build on some they've done before for this market. This will be like the fourth one maybe they've done for us, updated. So they're kind of familiar with the territory. So I just wanted to clear that up.
Charlie?
Yes.
Dave, does that satisfy what you were looking for last week when we talked about this?
Does that cover? Yeah. And I know the mayor said he'd offer to help pay for it, but I think we already did. So,
and I'm sure you saw but I think what the group was, it's like, none of us are experts on, and to
Right.
have them assist us, that was I'm sure you saw it, but that was the gist of it, that
Yes.
we needed some expertise to help us, even though we all have our opinions.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
certain things we know a little bit about, to have them, they
Mm-hmm.
have experience in that. So I think that was kind of the conversation, and I'm sure you saw it, but does that
Yeah.
make sense?
I did look at it, yes, absolutely. And I appreciate the mayor asking him if he knew anyone who did that sort of thing. He very humbly said, well, that's kind of what we do. But we're pretty confident in them. So, and we should have that. He thinks we can have that by around the middle of April, maybe by the 20th. So that'll be good. And again, I wanted to point out that there's no intention to rush this. I know I've told people I'd love to have the RFP out by May 1st. I fully understand that everything takes longer than I think it should or want it to, especially at my age, because you never know. So I think we're going to take as long as it takes to get this out and make sure we do it right. Michelle?
This may have been asked last meeting, but since the news of the possible casino
Ah,
structure coming up in Moorhead, is that changing or affecting our plans in any way?
thank you for asking that question. Several people have asked me that, privately. My view is that is not in any way a hindrance to what we're doing. And we have Mallory can back me up on this if I ask her to. I hope she will. But we've tried for all the years I've been here, 13 years almost, to attract more Minnesota Association business into Moorhead. And the problem with the Minnesota Associations coming here is that they can't have their meeting. Most of them can't have their meeting in North Dakota. So they have to have it on the Moorhead side. And we don't have adequate space for many of them, kind of the same situation we have on the Fargo side. We don't have adequate space to handle a lot of those on the Moorhead side. So my view is if they're going to build something that's, the Courtyard by Marriott and Moorhead Conference Center, great facility. If they doubled the size of it, that would be great. So if this new thing comes along and has 20,000 or 30,000 square feet, I think that actually will help us on the Minnesota side of the river. And I don't think it will have a negative impact on anything we're planning here. Is that fair enough? Did I lie? No. Okay.
Can I ask one more question, if you don't
Yeah.
mind? So my question is, so I totally agree with you. You said the RFP, there's no rush to get that out. I think that's great to not be in a rush saying that. But my question is kind of for financially. So is it actually a benefit? Let's say that obviously the tax is starting to be collected. Let's say that we delay construction. Does that mean there would be more money available? I don't know if you get what I'm asking.
I do get what you're asking, but the way the measure was set up, the tax doesn't actually go into effect until this group recommends and the city commission at a city commission meeting approves it. That's when the tax will start. So the tax will start certainly before construction. How long it takes to ramp up construction. So there will be a pool that will get built up of some amount, depending on, let's say it takes a year. So maybe you'll have almost $3 million in the bank by the time the construction actually starts, or at least money to help them out as they go along. But the tax does not take effect, that's the way we wrote it, until the project is picked. And if we don't pick a project by 2028, then the tax goes away, right, Susan? Yeah. Does that answer your question? Okay. Any other questions before we invite our guest in? I'm sorry, Joe, welcome. Joe came late. And Eric Johnson, of course, is online, our city attorney rep. And then also online, we have Pam Seidel, who is my counterpart in Fox Cities, Wisconsin. Pam, welcome. Can you hear us okay? That's my first question.
Yes, I can. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you for agreeing to do this. I told you initially that you were going to be on with Warren Wilkinson from Overland Park, but maybe you heard me say Warren had a conflict, so he's going to come back in a couple of weeks. So we have as much time as we want to discuss with you the lovely Fox Cities Convention Center that opened, I think, was it 2018 or 2019?
2018.
Okay, and it's actually located in Appleton, Wisconsin, correct?
Right. It's in the city of Appleton. Yeah, I'll share. The Fox Cities Convention and Visitors Bureau, we represent 19 municipalities in parts of 3 counties. Appleton is our largest community. And most of the communities are all suburbs tangential to the Fox Cities. If you know the area, if you don't know the area, Appleton is about 30 miles south of Green Bay, in northeast Wisconsin. We sit on the north shore of Lake Winnebago, the big lake the biggest lake in Wisconsin, the one you actually see when you're probably looking at a map. So what we did here, full disclosure, a convention center was on the docket here for 30 years. So I was chuckling at your, hey, if we don't have it, so the project goes away. Yeah, we had talked about a convention center for 30 years. Multiple studies, and finally just started, really kind of the City of Appleton mayor and just some other things in the business market had kind of said, okay, it's time. Let's look at this appropriately. We did several feasibility studies. We used a company called Convention Sports and Leisure, who had some experience in our market. They did a feasibility study on our Performing Arts Center, and then did a feasibility study and an updated market assessment on the Convention Center, and also did work for our, we have a large indoor sports facility that we built also with the same kind of room tax format that we did for the exhibition center. So it only took 30 years. But I guess, I'll kind of, is it okay if I just give a little history and then I can answer questions, or is there anything specific, Charlie, you wanted me to focus on?
Yeah, perhaps, I think I sent a link to everybody so they look online at the, the website of the Fox Cities Exhibition Center. But describe it to us a little bit, and then, tell us as much as you want to going in. I was taken by the fact that it really, the exhibition center itself is one big, almost 40,000 square foot room. And then a lot of the other meeting spaces in the attached hotel. So tell us a little bit about that and anything else you want, and then we'll start peppering you with many questions.
Sounds good. Right. When CSL came in, it was very important, again, when you're dealing with multiple municipalities and potential multiple locations, it was very important that the consultant come in and look at everything, even if maybe we all kind of knew what was going to be the best location. So we had this there in downtown Appleton, College Avenue is kind of the main drag. So right in the heart of downtown Appleton, the Paper Valley Hotel was built actually by a private entity, not a hotel developer, a local businessman, but in the late 80s, because really the hotel is unique in that it was kind of, again, because a non-hotel developer built it, it was sort of lopsided in its ratio. It has 395 rooms and about 48,000 square feet of meeting space, including one big ballroom and then lots of breakouts. And it served it served us very well as our main convention hotel for many, many years. What we found, as we got into the 2000s is where we were lacking was what I'll call trade show space. Because it was a true hotel ballroom, carpeting. We were having groups that had a trade show function, and as groups that wanted more of that trade show function, because in the convention market, many groups, that's how they make money to offset the cost of their convention or their event, is by that trade show and selling those trade show booths. We had no space. Because the group wanted to have their meals in the ballroom of the hotel, and we couldn't flip the ballroom fast enough from meals to trade shows and back. That's too much setup. So we were having trade shows in the lobby of the hotel and in the pool area. And so that was the impetus for us to say, we're missing the trade show space. But we tasked CSL with looking at every option known to man because we knew we had 19 municipalities to deal in, or that were part of this conversation. So they did look at development sites along the interstate. They looked at, in downtown. Our downtown in Appleton is thriving. They built the Performing Arts Center right in our downtown. It's right across the street from the Paper Valley Hotel. And we looked at some other lots and spaces, and really they came back and said the best cost benefit analysis, if you built this anywhere else but attaching it to the Paper Valley Hotel, which is now a Hilton property, you'd also have to attach a convention quality hotel. We had a former Greyhound dog racetrack on the north side of the area the area had been vacant and ready for development for years. And there was some internal community sentiment of, oh, the dog track site, that'd be perfect. Well, if you put the convention center out there, the exhibition center out there, you'd also have to build a convention quality hotel to support it, because meeting and convention groups generally, they want to be attached to their convention space. They don't want to have to shuttle or drive across town to go to the convention center.
Pam,
Yes.
just interruption,
Yes.
quick question. You're raising the question of the hotel in a way that sounds like the payment of the hotel and the convention center are lumped together. They're all taxed, or is a hotel a separate consideration?
Well, the hotel is, in our case, the Paper Valley was existing. It was there. It was built in 1988.
Right. I understand that. You said that the consultant said that, sound like that because that was there, that was a huge plus up to the convention
Yes.
center? Okay.
Yes.
So that makes it appear as though there's a public cost to the hotel that you were expecting to have that you wouldn't have had because you were located next to an existing hotel. Am I hearing that correctly?
I don't know that as fact, but I do know from a hotel development standpoint, here's what happens. Based on our local occupancy, which is running roughly around mid-50s occupancy, a hotel developer isn't going to see that as a great opportunity, because if you built that convention quality hotel next to a new convention center, say it wasn't downtown, you're adding more rooms to the market in a market that doesn't need more rooms. And so what it serves to do is provide competition to your existing hotels to their detriment, potentially. So you have to, it's not about, because in Wisconsin, you can't use room tax to build a hotel. So they would have had to get a private developer to, come in and do a development, and that wasn't an attractive offer because the market wasn't showing we needed more hotel rooms. What we needed was conventions or, convention space. Also, the fact that the Paper Valley Hotel was already existing in the heart of an urban downtown where you could walk to shopping, dining, lots of bars and restaurants. Downtown Appleton is amazingly easy and walkable and full of great places and spaces, where again, they said, if you put this out in this, what was essentially at the time, an empty field off the interstate, there's no infrastructure for those convention goers. They want that dining. They want that nightlife. They want to go out for dinner. They want to do all the things you do, at a conference. And so it was very apparent and became very apparent and even when they ran the numbers on a cost benefit, like the least expensive option was to build more exhibition space and attach it to the existing convention hotel. Because it had all the other tourism and convention related infrastructure that you would need, as opposed to having to rebuild all that in another place. So we went through that between 2014 and 2016. In 2016, it started in earnest. Of the 19 municipalities I serve, 10 of them are they're the ones who generate room tax in the area. The other ones are very smaller bedroom communities. So there began an effort with the 10 municipalities to raise our local room tax. And we, in the course of 9 months, we formed intergovernmental agreements and developments and all the other fun things you need to do. And 10 municipalities committed to raising their room tax and funding the construction debt on the exhibition center. And because that wasn't enough, and our hotel community got behind this and said, this is great, but we also have to fill winter weekends. So let's build an indoor sports facility. So they included that debt as well, and identified two essentially $30 million projects that are both funded with hotel motel room tax, the construction debt on both. And both of those came out of the ground within 2 years of each other. The exhibition center opened in January of 2018, and our Community First Champion Center opened in November of 2019.
Just out of curiosity, can you tell us we're not really talking about that now, but I'm curious about the size of that sport facility. What does it have? Multiple courts? Is it multi-sport?
165,000 square feet. It basically has 3 pods. It has one pod that is a field house, 4 basketball, 8 volleyball courts. It has one pod that is a NHL size ice rink, and those 2 are permanent. And then it has the third pod, which we call the seasonal, and that converts between another NHL size ice rink and court space. So about 3 weeks ago, we took the ice out in that space and put in the largest temporary hardwood floor in the upper Midwest, and into that space, and that converts to another 4 basketball and 6 volleyball courts. So during the summer months, we have 2 court spaces and 1 full-time ice arena. During the winter months, we have 2 ice arenas and a field house.
Okay, thank you for that.
And truly, that literally was, most of my municipalities were at either 5 or 6% room tax. We were thinking of raising it 3% to fund the exhibition center. Literally, we're sitting in a meeting one day, and one of the hoteliers said, we're going to bring this up to like 9% room tax, or why don't we just go to 10 and, we'll fund 2 things. And that I know it sounds almost comical, but that's kind of how the conversation went. And in the effort that it takes to raise your occupancy tax and all the governmental agreements, it soon became obvious that this makes sense. At the time we raised the room tax, much like I heard you talking, we had the exhibition center project kind of locked and loaded, like that was going to go. The sports facility project was not. It was a concept. We knew we needed an indoor sports facility, but that project really hadn't been hammered out as far as what it was going to be and the spaces. So they began actually collecting the room tax before the project was finalized, and putting that into a holding fund, which was actually helpful because we had more funds available when we decided to move ahead with that project, for down payments and that type of thing.
Okay, Thank you, that's great. I mean, we have a lot of sporting facilities in our community, but I was just curious as to how that compares to them. And it sounds like a great facility. A little bit more question about your lodging tax. So all 10 of your cities have the same lodging tax, and you say it's 10%?
Yes, so in Wisconsin, per state statute, you cannot exceed 8% lodging tax unless you have debt on a convention center.
Really?
So because we have debt, yeah, it's some very interesting wording. So we were going to have debt on a convention center. So we raised our lodging tax to 10%. And yes, and in Wisconsin, they have a concept called a tourism zone. So, and the wording is, the municipalities agree that in the eyes of the traveling public, they are one single destination. And that is very relevant for my destination. We have been marketing the Fox cities, and my communities are very forward thinking. We kind of joke they're like a family. You know, they fight like cats and dogs, but at the end they do what's good for the family with the brothers and sisters. So we've marketed the Fox cities as a single destination for 35 years, working together. And so we formed a tourism zone. And one of the rules of a tourism zone is all the municipalities must have the same level of occupancy tax. So the occupancy tax is at 10% in 10 municipalities. Of that 10%, 3% funds the construction debt on the exhibition center. 3% funds the construction debt on the Champion Center, the sports facility. The CVB receives 2.85%, and the municipalities retain 1.15%.
Thank you.
The exhibition center project was funded via municipal lease revenue bonds, which was seen as the safest and best interest rate opportunity by the municipalities. So the exhibition center is owned by the City of Appleton's RDA, their economic development, their regional development authority. The RDA owns the land underneath it. The city, through a lease, is the owner of the facility. The city has a management agreement in place with the Paper Valley Hotel to handle the day-to-day operations.
Okay, that was going to be my next question about management of this facility, because that's going to be, I think, I don't know how much, I think I told you that we're doing an RFP and we're asking for developers to give us a public-private partnership proposal. So the city would build the convention space and then there would be a private hotel, either existing or a new one, certainly are possibilities. So a lot of the questions come up about management, and we're going to try to leave it open, I think, in the RFP so we can let people propose what they think is best. How does that work for you as a, running the CVB, to have them manage the whole thing? Do you find that to be the best possible solution?
I think it's I think anything can work, done correctly. From the customer standpoint, it is nice to deal with one contact. For instance, if we have a group in that needs to use the exhibition center space and obviously needs hotel rooms, to have one contract with the Hilton Paper Valley Hotel for all the space and all the things is very, it's easier, obviously, from the customer standpoint. I'm not saying that it couldn't be done other ways, but it is certainly easier on the customer. There are some unique things with the exhibition center. So the Paper Valley Hilton does have food service and catering, but other caterers are allowed to cater food at the exhibition center. And that was part of the agreement when the other 9 municipalities were funding the debt on an asset that was being built in Hamilton.
that was going to be a very specific question I had. So obviously the hotel does catering as requested. So, but the contract allows for outside caterers to come in. Is it a list of preferred caterers? Is there a max? Is there a minimum number of times that they use the hotel? Or do they just all bid against each other and it's up to whoever comes in and rents the space?
List of preferred caterers, and it really is on the client. But what, the client needs to understand is, of course, the Paper Valley having staff there, right there, you're not going to get that support, right? They're going to do the setup and everything, but then the other caterer has to come in, and we were equipped with it's a plating kitchen. It's not a full kitchen. So there's, depending on the type of event you're doing, but we've had, full plated dinners catered at the exhibition center by outside caterers that have gone very well as well.
Do you know offhand how much square footage you have in the kitchen attached to the exhibit center?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Okay, well, we can check on that later. Yeah. Okay, I've dominated all the questions. Who's got questions for Pam?
So Charlie, I have one. Hey, Pam, it's Shannon. Good to see you.
Nice to see you, Shannon. Hello.
Doing great. So quick question. You mentioned the food component of it. What about who holds the liquor license and the bar sales?
Yes. So because of how licensing is handled in the state of Wisconsin and city of Appleton, the Paper Valley holds the liquor license. So no matter what, no matter the caterer with the food, the Paper Valley is always going to do the liquor license and bar service.
Great, thanks. And maybe I'll ask if you were to, now that you guys have been in this a little bit and had some experience, if you were to say, 3 to 5 things that you would do differently or that don't go as smoothly as you think, what would some of those be? What would you do differently?
So yes, ironically, we're 7 years in a pandemic in, yay. And currently we have CSL back in working for the city of Appleton, working on renegotiating the management agreement. And so there's definitely some things. I think it's important to remember that, and I'll say this obviously for the exhibition center, but also for our sports facility. The agreements from our municipalities, the room tax was funding the construction debt. But these facilities generally operate at a loss. They are loss leaders. They are economic engines that drive economic activity. And I can tell you, my friends at Appleton Downtown Incorporated, who's the downtown bin district, will tell you when there's a large group in, their businesses are busy. But that doesn't necessarily, make the numbers profitable at the exhibition center. So when you're looking at that operations, you have to find that balance, because generally it's not making a profit at all, or certainly not a huge profit. I think the plating kitchen, so we asked about, really look at that kitchen space, I would say the one thing we found is people never use the building the way you want them to. Our thought was, this is exhibit space. This is a full concrete floor. You can actually drive. We sunk it down into a hillside. So there's a big garage door and everything can be driven into the exhibit floor. We are the home of Pierce fire trucks. So we made that driveway big enough so you could drive a 40-foot hook and ladder truck down into and we've done it. And we thought, this is exhibit space, and all the food and beverage, all the food is going to happen over in the hotel's ballroom, because that's the best thing for the hotel and the easiest service. Well, inevitably, we have many groups who decide that they want to have their meal over in the exhibition center, and it was built across the street, so there's a skywalk. And moving food is a challenge. And like I said, no matter what you want to expect them to do, we thought we were just building an exhibit hall. But so many groups want to use it for their general sessions, for their meals, and logistically, it's not great for the operator to do that. That's not how we want the customer to use the space. But when the customer wants to use the space that way, you have to accommodate that. We would look better at acoustics and carpeting. We didn't carpet it because we want to bring those fire trucks in. And yet more and more groups want the full carpet even for their trade shows. I mean, I think our building is beautiful. It's a very architectural forward building. But I'll go back to, our friend Frank Lloyd Wright about form following function, and in sinking it into the hillside, it is gorgeous, but it also presents challenges. There's a lot of conveyance. We have 2 banks of escalators that are escalators are very expensive to run, and they break down a lot. 1 elevator, and sometimes having something just on, street level or where vendors and exhibitors can just get in and out without having to come down and around or using the escalators. It could be a little more functional. It wouldn't have been as pretty, or it wouldn't have looked as nice, but it might have been easier from a functionality standpoint.
Okay, thank you. Mayor?
Awesome.
I'm
Thanks.
glad you said that about the escalators, because originally we were going to build a city hall with 2 escalators. So I'm very pleased that you said that would not have been a good
No.
idea.
I think the Otis contract at Fox Cities Exhibition Center is, if not the most expensive, the second most expensive maintenance item they have on an ongoing basis are those escalators.
The other question I had, Joe had asked about this, about the liquor license. On the liquor license, do you get a cut of all the liquor? So if I have a convention, does the person who runs it gets a percentage of liquor served?
No, that all goes to the Paper Valley Hotel, the operator.
That can be different, though, in other cases.
Pam, is there a swimming pool or water facility within your center?
There is a swimming pool in the hotel.
Okay, I'm just thinking of like Grand Forks Canad Inns, and you have maybe a family that comes for the event, but only one person goes, and then the kids are entertained, and that might attract more people.
It probably won't be a large water park, much as we'd like it to be.
Yeah, we let Wisconsin Dells handle the water parks here in the state of Wisconsin. But they have several convention properties that do very, very well with, but it's the Kalahari. They have a huge grand scale water parks. We have a large Hilton convention quality hotel with a large swimming pool.
I have a question about square footage. I know it's 37,000 square feet exhibit hall, right? But it's dividable?
Yes, so the exhibit space is 37,000 square feet dividable by 3. We have another 3,000 square foot, the pre-function space. So we roughly have 40,000 square feet to work with, and we have moved, depending on the groups, we have moved exhibits out into the pre-function if necessary, or just use it as a true pre-function space.
And then you said the hotel has 48,000 square feet total of meeting space. What's the biggest ballroom for like a meal or a general session? What's the biggest room in that 48,000 that the hotel can provide? Is it 20,000?
So the Paper Valley's ballroom, oh boy, here we go. Now it's quite large. As I said, if you were going to build that hotel today, and this is what our consultant told us, you would never have as much meeting space as it has. So I want to say their ballroom is probably 20 to 25,000 square feet. I mean, it's a big, and it's dividable by 3 as well. We can sit, Paper Valley can sit, almost probably 800 at rounds in the ballroom. Excuse me.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very similar to what Delta would have. It's just from my recollection, we held a lot of the chamber events and major events at the Paper Valley in Appleton.
Yes.
Okay. Well, so it's somewhere between 15 and 20,000 square feet then, probably, be my guess. Yeah. Okay. And so when people do use it the way you want, they have their meetings, they have their general session and their meals in the hotel ballroom and the breakout rooms in the ballroom, and then they have their exhibit space primarily in the exhibit hall?
Yes.
Okay, other questions? Jim Gilmore.
Maybe you could address just how you manage the parking around the facilities. You mentioned you're in the downtown and you have some parking ramps, right? I guess I saw that on the website, but how do you deal with competition for those with maybe daytime parking users or the cost of operation? Maybe just talk about how you manage that and any advice on parking.
Well, as Shannon knows, there is never any parking issues in downtown Appleton. And I say that in jest because parking is always an issue. There is a ramp attached to the hotel. The exhibition center itself does not have parking. It has a small amount of handicap accessible and kind of a drop-off loop. But the parking is in what we call the red ramp, which is the ramp attached to the convention hotel. There are 2 other ramps in the downtown area, as well as some on-street parking. And, that parking ramp can get full and busy, but we have had some very full parking days, but the city of Appleton has done multiple parking studies, and we've never had the parking be an issue.
So
You mentioned briefly the operating expenditures and that situation. Can you explain how your deficit is currently handled? Who's bearing the cost of that?
The way the current management agreement is written is the hotel runs the exhibition center at its own gain or loss, 100%. That is a rarity. I would want to probably caveat that, but the way ours is the hotel runs the exhibition center and covers all the costs and keeps any profits, but also absorbs any losses.
Interesting. Okay. Other questions? I had one and it just slipped away from me, but it's going to come back. I know it's going to come back. Mayor?
So when you say maybe you run at a loss, what would you have to supplement to maintain the cost of everything on a yearly basis?
Excuse me for just a minute. We just had a report from the Paper Valley. I want to say the losses this year were about $148,000, roughly.
And then who pays for that? Do the multiple municipalities pick up the tab, the different groups that you have? Do they pay for it, or does one city pay for it, Appleton?
No, the hotel pays that. The hotel loses money on this operating agreement, which, as I said, we're going into a management, we're going into a renegotiation of the operations, and I'm sure that will be an issue.
How about
So
ongoing?
just let me real quickly, excuse me for a minute while I pull up this number here.
We stumped her.
It is, I can tell you that it is rare that you have an operator that is willing to fully absorb all the expenses. So
And then
actually,
Pam, you said,
go ahead.
and then Pam, you said that they are that's the part that's being renegotiated? Is that what
Yes.
what you mentioned? Yeah. Yeah, I find that,
Yeah.
I was wondering how that could be sustainable from a developer or property owner standpoint.
Well, I suspect they make profit. I think they've probably factored, I'm just guessing, but I'm guessing somewhere or other they factor the profit from the rest of the operation to cover that. But my question is going to be, how long was that contract with them? How long is it like a 3-year, 5-year? Is this the same contract you had when it started?
I think this is the first time it's been renegotiated, so it must have been a 7-year because it opened in 2018 and it's 2025. So it must have been a 7-year contract for the first management agreement. Yeah, last year, it looks like 2024, 162,000 loss. 2023 was $159,000 loss. There are some things here, that I think are, so in the grand scheme of things, it's not bad, but the city also charges the operator a payment in lieu of taxes, because the city owns the facility. And that pilot is $25,000. So,
Is that
Yeah, there are
factored
some
into the
things
loss
that-
then?
yes.
Yeah, okay.
How about the capital expenditures? Is there some sort of agreement between all of the parties, or did some money get set aside as part of your taxing group to have sort of a capital escrow account? Like when it's time to replace your carpets or all your chairs or that sort of thing?
No, the room tax is only funding the construction debt.
Who's
The,
paying for
the operator has to do any capital improvements.
I want that too.
And the city right now, I must admit that, the city right now is looking at some potential capital investments as part of this renegotiating of the management, but it would be on the city of Appleton.
Okay, good questions. Keep them coming. Anybody got anything else they want to know? I think management structure is one of the things we're most interested in, so this is helpful to us. And
Yes, I think you have to make sure that you have enough, it's carrots and sticks. I think you have to have enough in your management agreement of expectations and goals. But you also have to have, if you have an asset that you are building as the municipality, and you want your asset maintained and run to within the spirit of what the community hopes, you have to have some control there. And so while on the surface, I know even what we're saying here is this management agreement is perhaps on the surface a great deal for the municipality. There's a lot of lack of control in there too, because everything is on the operator, but both the profit and the loss. And so you have to incentivize that operator to do a good job. And I think there's some great management agreements, examples out there where the operator is incentivized through some things as part of the agreement.
Commissioner?
So I have a question. So what advice do you have for us as a group on building the building? What are the things that you think we should make sure to include as far as the building itself? What do you wish you could go back and change on your building and that we could do better?
I would say acoustics, carpet, either removable or permanent, probably removable, but own it, have it be a part of the building. The things that add cost to our groups are having to rent the carpet and have it be put in and out. It adds costs. Acoustics, as I said, we built it to be an exhibition hall. We didn't build it to put on concerts or do things in, but even when we have a large dinner in there, it's really loud. So look at it. Acoustics for us were one of the things that kind of got cut as a cost cutting, and you always have to cut somewhere. Have a kitchen that is appropriate size for the types of activities that are going to go on within the facility. I think, as I mentioned, I think our access is very functional and unique, and that we can drive big trucks down into it. But I do think street level, street grade access is very important.
Can I ask you real quick? So do you have like loading docks and the ability to, and how many do you have, and are they big enough?
Yes, there are 2 or 3 loading docks with a huge freight elevator that functions to bring in, display items and things. We've brought in cows because we're in Wisconsin. So we have hosted the National Hosting Convention, and we brought live cows down in the freight elevator, several at a time. So those are very functional. You have to have at least 2 loading docks, I would think, and a huge freight elevator.
Can I ask one more? So you would recommend to have as much at flat level as possible. One of the things we're considering is a mezzanine or and then you talked about escalators. So is your recommendation we should have as much at a floor level as possible?
I would say this, if it works out where your exhibit space is at floor level or at grade, whatever your grade is, or street level, that can serve to be, having definitely we have, our, what I'll call our street level, we call it the plaza level. We have a lovely outdoor plaza, and then an entryway that's glass and light and lovely, where a lot of the groups do registration, and then you go down into where the exhibit hall is. I completely supportive of having some sort of mezzanine and having obviously elevator, escalator there. It's just our exhibit space is sunk essentially below ground. And so that adds a little more complexity to load in, load out. Where if you get your load in, load out of your trade show displays and everything else on street level, that can be a little more efficient.
Okay, I have one last question, then the mayor has one more question that I've been meaning to ask, and it slipped away from me that one time, and Mallory probably has the same question. As far as sales of the facility goes, you say, so the hotel operates the whole thing, but does your sales staff at the CVB participates, right, in seeking leads and helping sell that facility?
Yes, the hotel has 5 salespeople. I have a convention salesperson who also works with them on developing leads and generating leads and bringing business, as well as we have a sports marketing team as well. So, because when you have a flat floor space, we have our sports facility, but in the exhibition center, there are groups that need just a concrete floor. So we've done cheer and dance. We've done powerlifting. We have the World Knife and Axe Throwing competition coming in 2 weeks. So we've used the exhibition center for those types of sports tourism as well.
Yeah, so ceiling heights are important, yes. Mayor, did you have one more question?
Yes.
Just a question. So I assume your exhibit hall is not carpeted, right? I mean, it'd be flare concrete so you can bring things. It is carpeted?
It is not.
And so when you're talking about bringing carpet in and out, is that for sound control or is that just for better ambience?
Both. There are many times now, even with a general trade show, they want carpeting just for standing on a concrete floor for 8 hours a day is not great. So most even trade show groups want carpet. It's the groups that bring in cars and trucks and those types of things where the concrete floor is fine. Cheer and dance and those, they'll bring in their spring loaded floors. But even most, you think of your general trade show, your home and garden show, or a group, we've held the Wisconsin Grocers Association. So all the vendors to the grocery stores, they all want carpet in their 10 by 10 booths.
And then when you talk about acoustic, does that sometimes make a difficulty in when you're having speakers in your exhibit space that they can't hear well and people complain?
Yes.
Okay, we've used up almost all of our time, but we have time for maybe a couple more questions if anybody has one. Otherwise, I'm going to thank Pam very much for this. We appreciate you being with us. I think we've learned a lot from this, and we appreciate you joining us, and I'm sure we'll be in touch down the road. We may have more questions for you, but we'll call about those. Thank you, Pam.
Well, you are most welcome. It was nice to electronically meet you all, and You're certainly welcome here in the Fox Cities if you ever,
Thank you.
if
Have
you
a
ever
good
wanted a
weekend.
tour.
Thanks, Pam.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay, that's kind of what we had in mind for today's meeting. Any other questions before we wrap up? We're going to have Warren Wilkinson from Overland Park join us on April 4th. So we're not meeting next Friday because we're doing the tour. So April 4th will be our next meeting here, and we're going to have him join us. Overland Park has a different management system, and he's going to have a lot to say about that. He would sign on to this plan in a heartbeat, but we'll leave that for him to explain to you. But it's actually eye-opening to hear about it. It's a bit larger facility, but the management to him is not working the way they'd like. So that's going to be good to know about. Kent, had you been talking, you had some people you were interested in bringing in at that meeting as well?
Yes, I believe that's also April 4th is our latest one. Go ahead.
You had said that Tammy was on for the 4th?
Tammy's on for the 4th, and Katie's still TBD at this point, so I have at least Tammy.
Perfect,
Confirmed
okay.
for the 4th.
So we could probably work that in as well as Warren. We can, we may.
And she should be, all of maybe 15, 20 minutes.
10, okay, so maybe we'll start with him. Okay. And then remember, the April 4th meeting, due to a conflict here at City Hall, apparently somebody's meeting, that we're pushing back just this one time, April 4th to 2 p.m., 2 to 3 p.m. So we'll start at 2 p.m. on the 4th. Otherwise, the rest, as far as we know, will remain at 1 p.m. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I feel like we're making progress. Have a good weekend.
See you on Monday morning at 8 a.m.
8 a.m. Yes, sir.